The third part in our packet is a very simplified version of the AutomoBlocks connector piece. We are basically going to be drawing the top profile, but we're only going to be drawing a quarter of it, and we're going to be using our mirror tools a couple of times to get the full shape. So please start by reading the information that begins on page 3, and then jump back in with the video here with me. So on page 4 is where I'm going to be looking for all of my dimensions. Now there's 100 different ways that you can draw this part. I would say if you're feeling really comfortable, try drawing it without watching my video. If you're not comfortable, go ahead and follow my method, which will work. But if you have another way you want to try it differently, feel free. So my suggestion would be that you start by creating a big rectangle, which is going to seem like it doesn't make sense because that shape isn't a big rectangle, but we're going to do some trimming and some cleaning up, and it will make it fairly straightforward. So the overall width of my quarter profile is 1.15. So I'm going to go ahead and type that in and hit tab and go down to my other, which is my height, which has an overall height of 0.39. So when I do that, it gives me kind of a rough boundary for my whole sketch that I'm trying to draw. So the next thing I'm going to do is take my rectangle tool again, snap it to this bottom right corner, and I'm just going to throw in this rectangle here. I'm not going to apply any dimensions. And now I'm going to take my line tool and I am going to start about here and bring my line tool down, make sure it's vertical, and connect it over to my little rectangle. Finish my line tool, and what I've made is basically the rest of the lines I need in order to make my sketch. So at this point I'm going to grab my trim tool and I'm actually going to trim away this part of the top line and this part here, which I had a feeling that was going to happen. It's not a big deal. All we need to do is hit escape so you're no longer trimming, delete this dimension, which again was only temporary, and then I'll be able to pull this line down. Now you can see it's getting stuck, which is, it's fine. It's not a big deal. If I try to move this one, it's going to move them both too. They are wanting to snap to each other. It's not a big deal. Hopefully once we apply dimensions, that will go away and kind of get locked out. So we'll start with that, and if it's a problem, then we'll fix it. So I'm going to dimension the length of this line, which is still my 0.39. And as you can see, it already sort of separated. So I'll also apply the length of this line here, which is going to be 0.32. As you can see, this dimension's already kind of getting weird. It's turning on us, which is fine. At this point, this would be a great time to just delete that dimension. We'll reapply it clean so that we don't have any issues later on. Also, not a bad thing to do would be to trim out this bottom section. I forgot to do that earlier, so that just takes care of that. So now I have a much more closely related shape to what's on my paper. I'm going to go ahead and put back in the overall width of my shape, which is going to be, again, 1.15. When you trim things, it kind of messes with your dimensions, so you sometimes have to reapply them. I want you to see me doing that so that you understand that you may need to do it as well. The dimension from this point right here over to this corner is going to be 0.3, so you can see I'm pretty close. This short little distance here, if I zoom in, it makes it much easier to see, is going to be 0.04. Pretty close there. And from this point, I'm only missing a couple of dimensions, possibly just one. And that one is going to be the distance from this bottom line to this top right here. And I'm trying to place my dimensions approximately where they are on the page to make it a little easier for you in case you're having trouble following along. And when I place that, I have basically all of my dimensions to roughly hold my shape. Now the reason that mine still looks a little bit different is that in your sketch there are some fillets that you need to apply. So we're going to choose our fillet tool up top here. And up in the top left corner I have a fillet of 0.1. So I'm going to again change my dimension first and then apply it. If you take your mouse and you hover over in the corner, it will sometimes let you just select it, and sometimes you have to click on both lines, and it looks like it wants me to click on both lines, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Make sure that the dimension is there. And there's a very, very small fillet down here, which is far easier to add in after you change this number, because it will not let you if you try to do it first. And that is 0.04. So once you've set your dimension, it helps if you zoom in again, choose your line, choose your second line, and now you have your fillet. So this part, oh, I missed this one right here. This is the third one, it's smaller. So we're going to change our dimension one last time, 0.05, and again select our lines. It looks like we have a lot of things going on, but it's really not too bad. So close out your fillet tool, and that should get rid of all the little tangent constraints that are in your face. So from this point, we now have to start trying to mirror our sketch, which can be a little bit tricky, but it's not bad if you highlight all of it at once. So I'll show you how to do that. So we're going to choose the mirror tool, still in the top center here. I need to select everything that I want to mirror. So the easiest way to do that is to draw a box over all of your things. That will select all of the lines. I'm going to choose my mirror line again. I want to pick this line this time and hit apply. So now I have a duplicate of my sketch. Don't worry about all these little symbols. That just means that everything over here got mirrored over to here. I'm going to hit done just to confirm and make sure that it looks right. It does look like a good copy. So my next step is to try to take all of this and mirror it over this bottom line. So again, mirror tool, select everything that I want to mirror, choose my mirror line, select any line along the bottom, it does not matter which one you choose, hit apply, and now you have the entire shape. So again, I'll hit done, get rid of that. Now this is where we may or may not have some issues. So if it works for me in the first time, great. If not, I'll talk you through how to troubleshoot yours if you have issues. So I'm going to finish my sketch. And notice I didn't trim anything. If you read in this packet as you get down to the bottom of page 4 and then moving on to page 5, it's going to say that you may need to do some trimming in order to get this to actually extrude. So I intentionally did not do that because most likely most of you will not read that and you will try to go right to extruding, which we're going to try. So if I click extrude and I try to select all my shapes, you can see that it's going to let me do the top, but it won't let me choose down here. That doesn't really surprise me. So I'm going to hit cancel. So from this point, I need to go back into my sketch. I'm going to edit my sketch 1. And the first thing I'm going to try is trimming out all of these lines here. So I'm going to get my trim tool. Don't be alarmed, it's probably going to make some of your lines change color. That just means that you're removing lines that your dimensions are referencing. It's really not a big deal. So I'm going to get rid of that, get rid of this one. There's probably another one laying there. Sure, I got an error, no big deal. Basically what I'm trying to do is just keep trimming some things until I have a sort of closed shape. So it's not going to let me trim out these, probably because they are part of the original mirror. So let's try this and we'll see what happens. Finish our sketch. go to extrude, and we'll try to get our shape. Again, it's not working. Not a big deal. We're going to go back in and try to figure out the next step. So we're going to edit our sketch. And this time, instead of trying to trim these lines, we're actually going to click on them and delete them. And if you zoom in, you can see that I have a little piece here. I'm going to delete that. And I'm going to choose this horizontal piece, delete it. I have another one, so I'm going to delete that. And I'm going to choose these two vertical ones. Looks like there's a couple layers, which makes sense because we mirrored them. So I've now just clicked on all these parts in here, deleted them, and we'll try this for a third time. This part can be kind of frustrating because you need to make sure that you have a totally enclosed shape and that you have access to everything. So we're going to finish our sketch, extrude one more time, and it still won't let me. So this is where you're going to have to troubleshoot for yourself. If you go back into your original sketch, it is very possible that somewhere you have something that's not connected once you trimmed out. It might be like a corner here, okay? It could be over on your mirror line. There could be a space between here and here. It's going to be different for each one of you. I want you to spend a minute or two trying to find it. If you can't find it, it's not a big deal. This is a perfectly acceptable place to stop. You have done the mirroring, you have your shape, and you have all your dimensions. So if you can't get it to extrude, it's not a big deal. You can finish your sketch. You can save it like it says in the packet on page 5, and you can move on to your next part.